some of the symptoms I go through is having this I call it memory gaps, like in my head. Like there are sometimes where I switch here and there, and during that period when I'm not myself, like I don't actually remember what's going on, what's happening around my surroundings and everything. So I think that slightly became a concern to my friends and parents because like I wasn't myself, I wasn't acting like myself, and they felt like it could really be a danger, but then they didn't really think much into it because they thought like maybe like my son is just being weird because they thought I was being like a very weird teenager kind of phase. Yeah, but I think it was because I still remember in secondary school I actually fainted. Then the doctors actually noticed that I was actually self-harming and everything. So my parents didn't know about it. So like when they actually found out like your son has been self-harming.
Welcome to the Label Life podcast, a podcast series by itallstartshere.sg, a community-based platform where any Singaporeans can talk to a trained listener and genuinely share about their problems without any fear of judgment. In this podcast series, hosted by one of our Hearbuds Magic Bowl, we hope to create meaningful conversations around mental health through the stories of Singaporeans, ordinary Singaporeans like you and me, but who struggled through the so-called labelled life. In doing so, we hope to raise awareness of mental well-being and break down the stigma surrounding mental health. So, let's start here.
We are here today in this podcast called the Labelled Life podcast series. We are going to explore the journey of all these individuals who are currently suffering from mental health issues. So maybe before that, maybe I'll just explore more on the general understanding of the dissociative identity disorder. Basically, it typically starts in childhood. As people's cognitive function, sense of identity and personality are naturally forming, and the fragmentation symptoms of DID supposedly function as a coping mechanism for serious traumatic experiences that the person was subjected to, like being physically beaten, verbally abused, or something like that, right? So I think as a general public or friends of those suffering from DID, we must understand that DID is caused by probably childhood trauma. And we can see for ourselves, we have here today, he will be exploring with me together on this journey of him having DID. Maybe what you can do is maybe tell us more about yourself.
Alright, so hi guys. I'm 22 this year. I'm currently serving NS. So other than that, pretty much, I think that's pretty much it. Doing nothing in life right now other than NS.
Okay.
I mean, shack, just a normal guy thing in Singapore.
Yes, I guess.
Yeah.
We at the end of the day, we all have to serve. We can't escape that, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So I see that both of us are in our basketball gear.
Yeah,
and
man.
Maybe you can tell me more about the gear that you're wearing. Brooklyn 11. Who's that?
I mean, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, especially of Kyrie Irving. Yeah, he's been my favorite basketball player for quite a few years. Yeah,
Like for me, I'm still stuck in the 90s. I'm wearing a Rodman.
Ah,
So as you can see, the age gap, because I'm 44, so you are 22. That's double my age, double your age. So I guess the kind of team that I support. Chicago Bulls, yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go there, lah. Don't have to go there, lah. But sure.
Okay, so what have you been up these days?
I was just recovering from I'm actually doing nothing, lah, because I'm actually recovering from a small little surgery that I had about 2 weeks ago. So pretty much been like rotting at home, doing nothing, just waiting for the wound to recover. Hopefully I can get into camp as soon as possible, lah. I mean, it's quite honestly nothing much to do. It's quite sickening. Just looking at four walls every day, using my computer for like almost like half the day.
I see. So you pick up gaming?
Yeah, I mean it's something I've been doing since young. My dad actually got me into gaming since I was quite young. Like,
wow.
I still remember like I think I was a baby or I was like slightly older. Like, I think he bought me like the PS1. Yeah,
PS1.
so I started from there. Then I slowly went up, the chain, like Game Boy, Nintendo DS, PSP. Then I had like a PS2. I didn't have PS3 lah. But then after I bought Xbox, PS4, all this kind of thing. So like, over like the course of my childhood, I've always been immersed in gaming. So I think the trend just continues. So now I'm more into like PC gaming and stuff. So yeah, I mean, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna blame my dad lah, but
But I guess that's one way you could fill your time with, right?
yeah,
Like-
I mean, if I didn't have gaming, like I think honestly a bit sian also lah. I don't have really much to do, so like can't really go out. Like I mean, I try to go out here and there, but like because of the wound and everything, like it's a bit of a hassle lah. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so maybe so during this COVID and all the different restrictions, right?
Yeah.
What is one thing that you miss most?
Wow, a lot of things, man. I think especially I have to say like going out with my friends and like not having to limit the number of people we go out with. So it's like I miss going into like restaurants and like I can like just sit with like 8 or 10 of my friends and like we can all like have a good meal, catch up with dinner and stuff. What else? Drinking, going clubbing with my friends and stuff like that. Yeah, like we used to be able to do all of that, and then like we had like no consequences or anything. Like the only consequences you had was just like trying not to go home drunk, or like trying not to get into trouble with like the law enforcement and everything.
Yeah.
It's been a real hassle lah, and also like going out with the mask and everything, having to social distance with people, right? I think like that's another big issue that I think a lot of people can relate with. So hopefully this dies down soon and we can all go back to normal life before COVID lah. Yeah.
So maybe now I'm going to dive deeper because I know that you are suffering from the DID, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Dissociative Identity Disorder. Maybe I'll just shorten it as DID. How long have you known that you have this disorder?
Actually, I've been experiencing this since I was young. Like, I was like maybe like 3, 4, like 5 years old, that kind. But I didn't really think much into it. Like, okay, like, partially I couldn't really remember what was going on back then in my childhood, right? But I only remember like distinctive parts of my childhood. I didn't even think about this kind of things until like I was like maybe in secondary school, going towards poly. That doing that transition. That's when I think like my mental issues was slightly more like coming out a bit more. Like it was becoming more known to like my family, to myself. Like I think that was like a maybe slight little trigger that made me realize that maybe I do have a problem. Yeah, but I didn't know about these kind of symptoms until like I went up to like the doctors and everything. I was talking to them, then like it was quite a struggle lah. Like trying to get them to know what was going on with me, what was going wrong. It took me a while to open up to the doctors also because like these are not people who are like my friends or like my family. These are like complete strangers who are like, I mean, yes, they're trying to help you, but at the same time, it's also quite hard lah.
Okay. So you mentioned that you've seen doctors.
Yeah.
So doctors you are currently seeking treatment?
Yeah, I'm seeking treatment from a psychiatrist and psychologist at Singaporean Youth Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do these thing takes a lot of time or how does this
I mean, it's as in the like when you're seeking treatment and everything, like because there's no medication for this, right? There's only medications to curb the depression that comes with it, the depression, the anxiety and stuff like that. I mean, the best way to get through it is like seeing a psychologist or like a counselor. So it's like that's when they help you talk, help you process your emotions, help you control your emotions, give you how do I put it? Coping methods, coping mechanisms to be exact, to deal with certain issues. So it's more of talking things out rather than taking medications. Because I don't think that it has been a medication that I've ever been prescribed for this.
So you are more exposed to therapy.
Yeah, psychotherapy.
Yeah. So you said you learned about this disorder when you are transitioning from secondary school to poly. That is about 16, 17.
Yeah.
So would you be able to tell us what are the symptoms or what are the thoughts that goes through your mind when you have been diagnosed?
Some of the symptoms I go through is having this I call it memory gaps, like in my head. Like there are sometimes where I switch here and there, and during that period when I'm not myself, like I don't actually remember what's going on, what's happening around my surroundings and everything. So I think that slightly became a concern to my friends and parents because like I wasn't myself, I wasn't acting like myself, and they felt like it could really be a danger, but then they didn't really think much into it because they thought like, maybe like my son is just being weird because they thought I was being like a very weird teenager kind of phase. Yeah, but I think it was because I still remember in secondary school I actually fainted. Then the doctors actually noticed that I was actually self-harming and everything. So my parents didn't know about it. So like when they actually found out like your son has been self-harming, blah blah blah. Then when they actually sat down and talked to me about the cuts and everything, right? Then they asked me like what's going on in your life? Why are you doing this? Do you need someone to talk to? Do you need to see do you want a professional to come and talk to you? I eventually gave in because like at that point of time I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about this kind of thing. Cause I didn't know who would understand. Cause it's like I couldn't just go to like maybe like my like secondary school classmate and be like, yo, dude, I feel like killing myself, man. They wouldn't understand that feeling. They wouldn't understand the problems that come with it because you're like a secondary school kid. Like your only problems are like your studies and like getting home early. So your mom don't kill you, your dad doesn't kill you, doing homework so you don't get scolded next day in class. Yeah, so when I saw the doctors and everything, it was a long time of treatments. Like go through like different appointments with the neurologist, also seeing a therapist, seeing a psychiatrist, and stuff like that. So it was honestly a very long journey. Yeah, getting there, and like getting diagnosed with this kind of thing. Like I found it a bit okay. It was kind of weird, but at the same time, it was kind of like cool at the same time. Like, cause when I was young, when I started hearing like things in my head, right, voices in my head, right, I always thought it was like imaginary friends because I was like the only child at home. So most of my parents will always like go to work like all the time, so I was alone at home. Or like when I'm with my relatives, like they also don't tend to lie on me a lot. So like I always thought it was like imaginary friends. So I didn't know like these imaginary like friends or their voices would actually turn out to be like alters in my head. Yeah.
So just now you mentioned about switch, you mentioned about alters.
Yeah.
Right. So when can I ask you, would you know right now how many or how many alters do you have? Or do you know when do you switch?
I have 3 other alters. Do I know when I switch? Yes. Yes and no, like, actually, because sometimes I can be a bit blurred and I don't remember what's going on in my own life. But sometimes when I really don't remember what's going, like when I feel like a chunk of my day is like missing, or like a chunk of part of my life is like missing, right? Like it feels a bit odd, but that's when I know like, okay, maybe something's wrong. Like it feels a bit weird lah. But that's like a probable guess. Like, okay, maybe I switched, or maybe I just went through some, like I just couldn't remember what I was doing lah. Yeah.
So when we talk about alters, you say you have 3 alters.
Yeah.
So you do you identify these alters, or do you know or whether who is the dominant alter?
Yeah, I do. They have names. Do I know the dominant one? Yes. So I have 3 alters. The dominant one will be the first one called
Alt 1,
Then the second one is a small little kid called
Alt 2,
The third one is
Alt 3,
so
Alt 1.
the dominant, the usual dominant one lah. So other than me, he comes out all the time, like not okay, maybe like 90% of the time when he feels like it. Yeah.
Okay. So these the alters that you mentioned, do they have like a time that they come out, or
There's not really like a specific time. There's more of just like if they come out, they just come out lah. Yeah.
So is it triggered by certain things?
Triggers, yes and no. Sometimes they come out even though there's nothing happening. But sometimes
Alt 1,
it's more of like a protector. It's like a guardian for me. Like when I'm having a very bad mental breakdown and everything, he tends to come out and like so it's like a slighter moment for me to retreat back, to just relax, chill, just like take a breather, control myself, gather my own thoughts and everything, and he comes out. And Yeah. So like, there's not a lot of triggers for like us lah. But then for
Alt 2.
because he's a small kid, like so for him maybe like kiddie things, cartoon, sometimes like it triggers his excitement. And that's when he'll be like very eager, very hyper active to come out and stuff like that. Yeah. So these are like one of the few things lah.
So these three alters, they are they I'm trying to understand more. So just pardon me. So these three alters, are they dangerous, or are they just normal people like everyone like everyone else?
I would say out of the three, only two of them are normal.
Alt 3.
I would say it's not really very normal. I would say dangerous, yes, but towards my own self.
Okay.
Like it's always like the one feeding negativity, like taking advantage, like like you're doing a shit job at something. Okay, let me just continue insulting you, make me feel worse about yourself if I can. Yeah, so like sometimes it's like a struggle trying to like not lose control, but sometimes I can't really stop it. So yeah, so it's quite of a struggle in that aspect lah. But other than that,
Alt 1. Alt 2.
they're just normal people. Yeah, they sometimes talk to my friends normally. They can engage in normal conversations. But I try not to let
Alt 2. Alt 3.
because it's
Alt
like
3.
negative, right? So you try to destroy friendships here and there. So I try not to let that happen.
Alt 2.
It's a small kid, so I don't want my 21, 22-year-old friends like look at me, a 22-year-old talking like a 4, 5-year-old kid. I wouldn't want that to happen. But yeah lah.
Okay. So meaning you said you 90% was
Alt 1.
able to control from all the other two alters from coming out. Are you able to control?
Yes and no lah. Sometimes if he's had his own share and he's fatigued and everything, like he also can't really do much. But if he can, he will try his best lah.
All right. So people DID or I can also sometimes people call it the multiple personality disorder, MPD. So usually all along I've read that they are actually highly intelligent, sensitive, bright, and multiple personalities are usually brilliant. They are curious about themselves. So what can you say about yourself then?
None of the above. Can I say that?
Nah, I think one should
I'll say talented lah, maybe because like I tend to engage in different things. So sometimes if we were to engage in other activities, so let's say maybe other forms of, because the main sport I do is taekwondo. Other than basketball, I do taekwondo. That's like my main sport go to. So other than basketball, maybe sometimes I try other sports, or maybe I go into other fields like music, arts, and everything. So different part of us likes to explore different aspects like that interest us.
Okay.
So like in that sense, maybe we are talented in that sense. So I wouldn't say bright. I wouldn't say like very like highly engaging in about our conditions and everything lah. But maybe I tend to be more sensitive on like emotion side. Like okay, I tend to care about people's emotions more than others. So it's like sometimes when people talk to me, like I tend to look out for how do you say, like what's that term?
You kind of understand their feeling or feel them, or more
like
sensitive, that you are able to detect what's wrong with
by just looking at the like how are they speaking, their body language. Sometimes when I look at their face, that sometimes like, or they say like, oh yeah, I'm fine, but then their face doesn't look exactly fine. Like it doesn't have to be like physically put out a smile, but like sometimes people like just have, maybe it's just the tone, or maybe some parts of their face just shows that like, yeah, actually dude, I'm not good, but I don't really want to get into it, so I'm just gonna say I'm fine, stuff like that lah. Like I'm more sensitive towards like the emotional side of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you are currently serving NS.
Yes.
So how do you cope with with DID or MPD and the NS obligations that you have, as well as socially for you?
Okay, NS is not really much of a struggle because okay, I'm in PES E, right? Because of my depression and everything. So I actually got down PES to PES E. I do nothing. Like, okay, because like PES E is like considered very slack, right? So there's nothing serious for me there. So even if I were to switch out here and there, right, it's still fine. Because like we somewhat know what we're doing. Like sometimes if
Alt 2,
were to come out because he's like, wait, what am I doing in an army uniform, in an army camp? Then he'll just switch out to
Alt 1,
what to do and stuff, right? So for us, it's actually completely normal for like the NS side because we know we're not like combat fit. So we know we won't be walking around the jungle, marching, using guns, throwing grenades and stuff like that. I mean, that would be more of a concern. Yeah. But like, I mean, being in PES E, like it's been kind of slack lah. So I don't have much issues over there. But socially it's a how do I put it? It's kind of like it's not that hard, but it's kind of also because sometimes I can switch out between having conversations with people. Like mid convo, I can like suddenly become
Alt 1,
and this kind of thing, and I have to act completely fine. But sometimes I don't have to act also because like there are some close friends that know about my conditions, so they are fine with it as long as I tell them like, hey, you know what, it's not me, I'm not someone else. Then they're like, oh, okay, fine. Because some of them, they tend to notice like, hey, you're not acting like yourself, you're not being yourself, is everything okay? Yeah, so some of them get to notice, some of them don't. But even if like, if I'm not very close to the person, like I won't really like go up to them even though they ask me like, hey bro, you okay or not? So it's not that hard lah, because some of us when we switch out also sometimes we'll be like, okay, you know what, I just have to act normal. Like sometimes we'll be like lost track, we'll be like, hey, what am I doing in this conversation? Like I don't remember what I'm talking about, why am I meeting this person, why am I doing this here and there, right? But all we have to know is just like, okay, try to just try to very quick grasp of the situation and like just try to solve it. But if we are with close friends and everything, right, then we'll be like, okay, you know what, I switched out, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the first half of our conversation. Mind just re-talking, like, reiterate, just saying again lah, whatever just happened. Yeah, most of them are quite understanding lah.
So meaning socially, I don't think you have problems because
It's not really much of a struggle lah.
Yeah.
It's not really that much of a struggle unless I'm with people who I don't really trust to know about these kind of things. So that's when the struggle comes in because I have to act like I'm fine.
Okay.
Despite like me zoning out, switching out, and then like, oh shit, now I have to like pay attention to the convo. Yeah, so that's like the struggle. But with close friends, sometimes it's just a matter of watching out about what I talk to them, because sometimes like me not being myself and being another author, it can result in me saying things that they wouldn't want to hear because that's their personality. This is how they thought. Maybe they are a bit more cold-hearted, and then maybe my friend's having a breakdown. He doesn't want to hear that truth. But sometimes I have to control whatever we say. So sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but the only struggle comes with people that I'm not very close to.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's one thing about say living with the stigma of DID can sometimes be difficult. So do you agree with this statement?
Not really, because okay, in my opinion, I feel that if people don't know, there's not much of a stigma for you to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, like unless it's a public thing, like everybody knows, like, oh, okay, has DID. Like whenever everywhere I go, they're like, hey, isn't that the multiple personality disorder guy? Like that's when the stigma kicks. But if only like one or two people, like a few friends, only a close friend know about these kind of things, right? Then I think that's not really much lah. I mean, definitely when you first bring it out to them, that's when the stigma kicks in because they only have one point of view about multiple personality disorders. Because maybe for them, they watch what's the movie again? Was it Split?
Split.
Yeah, I think the main actor was the guy who played Professor X from X-Men.
Okay.
I can't remember the actor's name.
Yeah, Split. Yeah.
But so for them it's like, oh, I've seen this movie, this is how people act, they don't get a very in-depth feeling experience into it. They don't see the memory losses, they don't see this, they don't see that. So for them it can be kind of creepy, so it can be kind of scary also. So they wouldn't have to deal with it, but as much as so I try to explain to them, this is what I actually go through, then they're like, oh, okay, I can deal with this, I can deal with that. So for me is that if it's not really public information or a public known fact, right, there's not really much of a stigma to live by it lah. It's more of your own, how you live your own life.
Correct.
Yeah.
I also agree with you. Sometimes the movies are the one which tend to
They don't
overdo it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but right now,
Yeah.
we are having this podcast conversation, and we are sort of when this podcast is out, and then people sort of would you be fine with this podcast being out and learn for people to learn about having DID or how to cope with person having DID? Are you okay with this?
Not really. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing maybe I can explore is probably DID, like any other serious illness, does not define you lah. I
Yeah,
think it's not, because it's
But
just
it's just the actions of what your authors do lah that people tend to misinterpret, because to them they see you, you know, they don't really see because the outer change is just a change within your personality, it's within your own self. So it's not like, you know, if my author is a girl, suddenly I come out, I have long hair, you know. Yeah. So it's just the way I act, the way I talk. So for them, they don't see that, because all they see is just you as a person. It's just that the way you act is different.
Okay.
So for them, it's hard to get that image out. Like, you know, like 5 minutes later, I'm back to myself. But they still see the same person. So for them, it's a bit hard to, like, you know, accept that lah. So sometimes it may take time for them to get used to get adjusted to these kind of things lah. So can tell it's yeah lah. That's
Okay.
very big struggle.
Yeah. So maybe this is the last question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to live a happy, successful life with DID?
Yes, there is. You just need to know what you just need to know, like, how do you control yourself lah. Not say like some people really can't control when they switch with alters, but I'm fortunate enough for mine to be slightly controlled. I know what's going on and everything. So like, for some people they can't. So it's not really saying some of them really don't live a very happy life, but they can be happy in terms of how their friends, like close friends, loved ones, how they are being treated by them, because it's hard for them to talk about this kind of thing, like in society. So they depend more on the comfort of their loved ones.
Okay.
So it is possible to live a happy life. Like getting comfort is one thing, but it's all about knowing your own worth lor. Like sometimes you need to know like what you can do as a person, what are your own strengths, and if you can get success by your own self, then the comfort of knowing that okay, you're fine with me, you're safe with me, you can be who you are with me, that's the best comfort you can give someone with DID, because they want to know that, you know, despite me having multiple personalities, some might not be nice, some might be a dick. So this kind of thing, you have to accept the person for who they are, because, you know, that's not who they really want to be. They have no choice. And yeah, I think that helps them be secure and be able to be happy. Because for people with like go through mental illnesses and everything, they want to be accepted for what they go through and who they are because of it. And the other achievements come later, because they can definitely solve their achievements themselves, but how they are to people and how they are being viewed, I guess, and how they are being treated, I think that's the best comfort you can give them.
Yeah, I think you sort of sum up what I felt. I guess at the end of the day, it's about acceptance. Acceptance of who you are, and then how to learn more about yourself, as well as how to control certain things within your capability, right?
True.
So I really thank you for opening up with me today.
No problem, man.
And but one last question. So what I want to know is actually, put aside the pandemic, and then usually what goes on Friday night for you?
Getting drinks with friends.
So that's it. Partying, or
I mean, that's the only thing, man.
Yeah, just drinking.
Just drinking.
So that's what you missed, and that's what you do on Friday nights.
Always.
Okay, all right. So, all right, thank you so much for coming. I
you so
really
much. Thank you.
applaud your vulnerability and your braveness in coming out and tell me more about this to understand more about DID and MPD. So, I really thank you. So,
problem,
ladies
man.
and gentlemen, if you are trying to listen or need people to listen, there's always it all starts here .sg. So if you need somebody to talk to, just scroll to www.itallstartshere.sg and we have a group of earbuds who will be able to listen to you. Yep. All right. Thank you so much.
For having me, man.
All right. Thanks. And Magic Bow out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Labeled Life podcast, a podcast by itallstartshere.sg. You can follow itallstartshere.sg on our Instagram and Facebook. And remember, our earbuds are always here for you if you need a listening ear.